Hello, hello, hello. And we are live. Welcome.
Okay.
Welcome to the Happiness Tribe
Okay, we're back.
with another beautiful Sunday podcast where we bring a new and a beautiful topic, which today we're going to talk about mindfulness and living in the present moment. We know the world is extremely noisy, be it social media, there's just so much noise. So, how can we cut the noise and live in the present? So, as always, your host today, Miss Kim, joining you live from Cameroon. I just had a lecture on that I don't pronounce it nicely. And I said, I just ate too much of potatoes and cabbage growing up. So my tongue doesn't turn the other way. But so it's written Cameroon, but it's pronounced like Cameroon, which I have to really twist and tongue my tongue. So yes, this is from a beautiful Botswana, right next to South Africa. Um, and we're looking forward to engaging with you. Please join us. We want to listen to you. We want to have a very good conversation on how we can nurture the art of just listening quietly, nurturing our mind, staying at the present moment. I'm joined by our two awesome ladies, my co host, and I'll just pass the mic for them to introduce themselves. Over to you, ladies.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's afternoon time here in Habaroni. And as Ms. Kim said, it's spelled with a G, but pronounced Ha, Habaroni. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. But thank you for that introduction, Ms. Kim. My name is Judith, and I'm also in Habaroni, Botswana. I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be a very interesting afternoon, and hoping that we'll have some of our guests joining us in studio and or with your comments, questions, and it would be so wonderful to hear your stories as well. How you've experienced mindfulness. When did you start um, practicing, if you practice mindfulness, and why and how has it made a difference in your life? So, yes, over to you, Dr. Gladys.
Good day, everyone. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, USA, because I found out that there's a Georgia, and I think it's in Asia or somewhere. So let me just mention I'm in the United States of America. Right now it's what is it, like 11 o'clock my time, 11 a.m. And we actually have a storm that's rolling through. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think that many people need to, discuss this, because I think that is something that requires that we be intentional until it becomes a habit. You know, so we had a very rich conversation that we discussed a little bit about mindfulness, and I'm looking forward to this broader topic and this deeper topic on mindfulness. So, like Ms. Yoda said and Ms. Kim, hopefully if you would like to share, come on stage. We would like to hear from you. So back to you, Ms. Kim.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gladys. And thank you, Miss Theodit. And our lovely queen is here to drop the gems as always. So I'm doing the drum roll to usher you in. That's how we do it in Africa. We
Oh,
roll, we drum, we beat it all the time. We beat when we're mourning, we beat when we're celebrating. So you can't even tell when we're happy and when we're sad. We do it all the time. Welcome, Miss Paula, and the mic is yours.
hi. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Miss Kim, Sister Yodit, Dr. Gladys, the entire team. I apologize. My computer just decided to update itself just when it was time to go on. So I apologize for being tardy, but I'm here now. I hope everyone's having an absolutely beautiful day. No matter where you are in the world, I'm coming from the beautiful country of Belize. The sun's hot. It's real hot. And we're under a heat wave right now and we're heading into hurricane season. So it's time to be mindful and to focus on the kind of life that we want and to begin to do the inner work to help us to get to that point. So I thank you all so much for having me today. I don't know how far you are because I came in late, but I can pass the mic back to whomever I need to pass the mic back. Please provide me some guidance, Miss Kim, Sister Yodit.
You just need to stay pretty and give us the gems. Don't you
Ah,
worry. The
so
I
cruise is
see
right.
Selassie has just joined. Okay. Sorry, Miss Paula, not to interrupt, but I see
no,
Selassie has just joined us. It would be nice
go
to
ahead.
hear his voice.
It would be.
Selassie.
Yeah, good day, everyone. I'm Selassie from Ghana and a proud member of the Happiness Tribe. I mean, uh, I'm very grateful for today's topic, and it's really interesting that probably uh, we will be discussing about, mindfulness and living in the present moment. And I think is one area I think many youth should really focus on rather than worry about tomorrow. I think, living in the present is really a good thing that we all have to, be practicing, yeah, in life.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I agree. So, what exactly is mindfulness? Why does it matter? Why do we care? Why are we speaking about mindfulness? Well, let's just paint the picture for the current situation that we find ourselves in. Either one of the slides will be fine, Ms. Kim. It doesn't matter. So, mindfulness is really an awareness of yourself, your current situation, just the moment that you're in. Why does that matter? Why does it matter? Let me tell you a quick little story about how I became so interested or engrossed in mindfulness. When you live in the industrial north, for those of us who moved around, went to go find a better life for ourselves, we find ourselves having to work sometimes 12, 16 hours a day. Most of us have more than one job and everything sucks our time. If you're a woman, you're responsible for everything and everyone, your husband, your children, if you have one, if you have children, your job, you have responsibilities for everything else. I was like that. I had a sick child. I had, I was struggling with some kind of physical uh, disease. And so it was just constant. It was putting all my energy into everything else just to juggle all these balls going in the sky at one time. And I've got to tell you, it almost broke me. So mindfulness to me is being able to live in the present moment, being able to appreciate the blessings in the heart of chaos. For me, that's what mindfulness is. I'd like to hear from the rest of the team what mindfulness means to each of you. And then we can discuss the struggles and the science behind it and then some practical tips. So, Sister Yodit, I know you've been in the thick of things and you're a mama bear with your children. What is mindfulness to you?
Thank you, Miss Paula. I was hoping you'd pick me last because I was still trying to see if I could define it. But mindfulness as it's a very important way of being. And I think the best way I can describe it for now is being present. It's being attentive. It's appreciating what's happening before you at the moment when you're in the moment. um, it's so important because when you are a person who understands and practices mindfulness, it allows you grace, meaning not just for yourself but for others, because when you're mindful you listen, you're attentive. And so I think there's so much power attached to being a mindful person and mindfulness, that it would be wonderful to see it prescribed as, and I think in some instances now, maybe in some schools, where from, when you're a child, you are taught how to be mindful. For some of us, it came very, very late. And maybe I can share that later on. But yeah, so for me, it's and you've said it, it's being present in the moment. Miss Kim said it as well. But more than that, I think it brings with it patience, it brings with it grace, and empathy as well. Those things that are more often than not lacking in the world that many of us are living in. And by world, I mean whether it's your work environment, sometimes at home when things are chaotic, etc.
Mhm.
So I hope that'll be okay for now, Miss Paula. Thank
It
you.
is. It is, Sister Yodit. One of the things I'd like to add to your statement, and this word is powerful for me, awareness. Awareness. Because a lot of times we get so preoccupied with the problems, the challenges, the things we have to do, and we're running from one thing to another without taking the time out to just be still, to just be quiet, to listen to yourself think, to hear whatever it is that may be around you. I'm not saying to get caught up in it, just to be able to observe the internal and the external environment. For me, from a detached standpoint, let me give you a perfect example. Like my life is, I'm the caretaker. I'm a full caretaker for my mother. My mother has dementia. And I don't know, for those of us who are in the audience now or later, that if you are, a lot of us are now parenting our parents. And it's quite a challenge for a child to take the role of parent for providing care to your parent. And oftentimes my days, every minute is scheduled in my day. And after a few days, I realize, like, I get an internal clock that says, hey, 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 you're running too much. You're making everybody else a priority except yourself. Sit down, be quiet. Just be still and do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just be still. For me, that's situational awareness. It's the presence of awareness in my life. So that's something I really, really would like to see our audience take from this. Because you hear mindfulness all the time. We don't know what that means. What does that actually mean, mindfulness? What are you doing? Looking at your mind? What are you doing? But it's being able to just be still and be quiet and tune into yourself just a little bit. Make time for that. So I'll stop there. Dr. Gladys, I'm going to skip Miss Kim for now. Dr. Gladys,
Mhm.
mindfulness for
Yeah.
you is.
Okay, so yeah, mindfulness for me is intentionality. And when I say that, you mentioned the word awareness, so, practicing awareness on purpose, and it's not by accident or by habit. And I can give you an example. So when I travel, and I remember specifically when I went to Africa, and I remember one of my in-laws said, I know everybody in America is probably trying to contact you, but she was thinking about my normal routine. And I said to her, I said, oh no, I'm not concerned about anyone anywhere else. I said, I'm here. So what I did was, and so she was surprised to hear that response because I wanted to take in my environment. I wanted my smell senses. I wanted to smell where I was. I wanted to taste the food and savor the taste of the food. I wanted to also, it was all my senses that were coming into play. And in order for that to happen, you have to be present. You have to allow those senses to absorb all of that information. And that's just my outlook whenever I travel. What is the purpose of traveling if I have to think about home? I want to savor everything that I'm taking in when I'm in that place. And because I want to remember, those experiences, So that's what that means to me. So I'm very intentional when I go places. I want to have a true experience. I know that things can happen when they can remove those senses. But I mean, if you don't have an emergency or anything like that, otherwise, that is what I intentionally do. Even when I went to Italy, I wanted to taste that food. I wanted to feel that environment. So, and then it triggers something when I see it, like on TikTok or something, they showing like a video clip or something like that. And I want to say, wow, that's what I experienced. I'm looking at this. So yeah, that's what it means to me. And I'm very intentional about that.
I love that. Oh, Dr. Gladys, I love that. Because what I hear you saying is complete immersion in the moment, whatever that is, whatever you're experiencing, if
Yes.
you're tasting, smelling, hearing,
Right.
touching, feeling, all of
That's right.
that. And that resonates
Yes.
with me. That absolutely resonates with me. Miss Kim, I know you travel a lot and you spend a lot of time. You're a pretty busy lady. I mean, you're running the world actually. So tell us, What is mindfulness to you? How does that show up in your experience in your life?
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Paula. I seem to have different ways of just calming myself and just going like, come on, girl, stop it now. And depends on what I'm doing and where I am at. But I am very intentional about getting that calmness, about stopping. I love tech and I have to be very intentional on just getting off tech. So, and me getting off tech, I try to make sure that I walk the dogs that make me laugh. I walk the dogs without the phone. We'll chase butterflies. They'll be running after birds that are flying that they can't catch. And I'll be rolling. This make me happy. So happy. We'll stop. I'll look at the wildflowers that are growing. I'll see some cows and their babies, and I can stop and watch them, and I'll get lost in the moment. I just get lost. I also love, I have specific podcasts that I listen to just to calm me, just to center me,
Yeah.
just to bring me back home. Music also is very soothing to me. You'll actually be surprised the kind of music I listen to. It's very, very old. It's in mother tongue. Sometimes some of the songs I can't tell exactly what they're talking about, but the sound of it
Yes.
just brings me back home. Just makes me forget the noise of the world, forget that bill that is not paid, forget that, and I'm just home. That is home to me.
That's it.
My
That's it.
mom, yeah, my mom, my phone calls to my mom when she was alive used to be home, and sitting with her was pretty home. Like I would do anything just to go sit with my mom, and I loved her. I honestly, I really loved. There's some energy. I think there's some peace that comes with old people, and our moms
Great.
also. You don't even need to tell them what your struggle is. They can feel you. You don't tell them. The last 5 years of my mom, she had stroke. So when she suffered a stroke, we could never tell her our problems because cognitively she was a little bit affected, but still, I mean, she was just in her own world and very, very happy. So my mom could make me laugh from just the way she used to talk. And I didn't need to tell her anything. We just have a conversation, and I will see whatever I felt like the weight of this world is on my shoulders. I'll have another week of joy and happiness. Now, sitting with her was real bliss. Just to listen to her complain about this chicken and this coke. They're not laying eggs. And it
Right.
was the most beautiful thing. Like, really,
Yeah.
ma'am? Those are yours?
Yeah.
It was so beautiful.
I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. So I have a question to ask. We're going to move to struggle in just a minute, but I have a question to ask because I want to know if it's just me. I'm sure it's not just me. This is happening too. Have any of you ever had some type of challenge, whether it was business, whether it was your company, whether it was something with the children, and you're struggling and you're struggling and you're struggling with this challenge and you can't seem to get an answer to it. And the minute that I sit still and I get immersed in just being alive, just in the moment, the answer would fall into my head so plain and so clear that I say, well, where was it all this while? And I feel now, one of the reasons that I'm such a proponent for mindfulness is because I feel now that this is so much a part of our growth process, of our taking control and maintaining control of our lives, right? Being the quality assurance person of your life, basically. I have problems, and sometimes I would say to my clients, give me a couple of days, I'll be back in contact with you. Because I don't have the answer to whatever the challenges that we may be working on. And I sit and I'm quiet and it falls into my head and it's so clear and so simple. And I have these eureka moments where I was like, why didn't I think of that? So I'd like to know if that happens to anyone else. Like, have you ever had a situation where it's beyond you and you sit quietly and the answer seems so obvious, is right in your face? Anyone can go with this. Selassie, anyone. Dr. Gladys,
I'm trying to
have you
think
ever
of what
had that?
my. Go ahead. Go ahead. I can't
No, I
think of
was
what.
asking, have you ever had that? Because if you haven't had it, the more that you engage in mindfulness, especially when you're faced with a challenge that you can't seem to get the answer to, this is where I've arrived with it. It seems limitless for me. I've been practicing this now for maybe over 10, 15 years, this intentionality in just tuning into my awareness, into just being alive, and it's getting stronger and stronger with me, no matter what the problem is, whether it's my challenge, it's somebody else's. Because people call me all the time, people reach out to me, I have clients and they're like, I have this thing, and I think, wow, that's a lot. What would be the solution? And all I have to do is be quiet. Sometimes it even wakes me up out of my sleep. The answer wakes me up out of my sleep, like, oh, there it is. So I wanted to know if that's working for anyone else, because that's where this mindfulness practice over the years is now bringing me into like an instantaneous connection to something higher, larger, deeper, with more knowledge than I have. There's something that's in the universe. I call it the God mind, that I plug into when I'm into this mindfulness, that just has an answer for every question, every challenge. So if you haven't had it yet, if you keep practicing, it will come. Because some of my friends I'm speaking with about some of this stuff, it's starting to happen to them, and it's happening more and more. Mindfulness is like, it unleashes something like it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the more you plug into the unseen realms of things. I know it sounds crazy. I'm gonna be quiet before everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I'm actually
No,
living this stuff. Go
no,
ahead.
I I actually think I get it so often. I don't know, it's a thing I believe in, but I think it's very true in our subconscious mind. Do you know this thing of I'll sleep over it, right? Like we don't make serious business decisions until you sleep over it.
Yes.
And somehow, so for me, it's I believe in I sleep over it. I'll sleep. Let me get clarity. And doesn't
Yes.
mean that I'll wake up at night and think about it. I can pack it back. But when I wake up, that is likely to be the first thought. And then in my shower.
Right.
this there's always, I don't know, in my shower, I tend to be in the present moment. I tend to see clarity in things that could be stressing me. And I tend to get that light bulb moment that an idea comes. And I just go like, why
Yeah.
couldn't I think about this? And what I
Yeah.
do now, I practice right from my shower. There's a notebook outside my bathroom because also I know ideas have a very short memory life,
They do.
shelf life. So I will come from my shower and I'll scribble my thoughts because I know I'll need those thoughts later. But it's so clear within that shower time. I'm collected, I'm calm. It is the sound of water. So I feel like a lot of that clarity for me comes when I'm calm, when I'm still.
Miss Kim, it's funny that you say that, because my daughter and I had this conversation just a little while ago. And she said the exact same thing when I was speaking to her about being still. It's stillness. But not stillness necessarily in sit and not do anything. It's stillness for me. It's stillness in engaging in something I'm passionate about. My daughter said to me, she said, Mom, she says, I don't know what it is with water and being in the shower. She said, no matter what the circumstances is, she said, I would even just throw it away and say, I give up. And I go in the shower, she says, and the idea or the answer to the challenge would just fall into my spirit, like just come in my head. So she has the same thing with water. So she's been here. She lives in Europe, but she's been here. So now she's been spending all this time by the water because she realized that water has an impact on calming her down and making her still. She said when she's in front of the water, the distractions that usually plagues her mind, she said for some reason it just calms her down and she could just focus. It's a space inside of yourself that's like an oasis. It's the weirdest thing. So I think that is awesome. So if there's Go ahead, Dr. Gladys. You want to add something to this conversation?
Yeah, I do, because I was thinking, and when I was listening to the conversation with everyone, now I realize, see, what it is that, see, I have the type of mind. I always say that my neurons are always firing because I'm always multitasking. And in order for me, and like you said, when you're still, when I say still, like you said, I don't mean just sit somewhere and not move. I have to remove all of the distractions and prioritize, what I should be focusing on. And that's when that aha moment can come, or I have that epiphany. But that's
Yes.
usually because, like I said, I'm always doing multiple things. I'm very good at multitasking. But when you have
Right.
all of those distractions, it's very difficult to get a clear cut answer. And that's what I do. I'll say, wait a minute, what has to come first? So I have to focus on and prioritize what is necessary at that time in order to get that answer. I just wanted to mention that.
I think that's an excellent contribution because that moves us right into the struggle section of this conversation, right? So, how do you get rid of distraction and emotional challenges? Because when you're in the middle of melting down, I melt down on a regular, just so you know. It's become a practice for me to just go crazy inside my head and sit my butt down and have a serious we call it a come to Jesus moment with myself. People say all the time, oh, don't speak to yourself, you must be crazy. And I say to people, I have the best conversations with myself. And I want to continue that because that's important. That's how I tune into myself, right? So I have a complete come to Jesus moment with myself. Why are you tripping? Someone trigger me. Why are you so triggered? What is it about this person that makes you so angry, that frustrates you, that takes you to the moon and make you want to clobber them over the head? Why? What is it? Right? That's my come to Jesus kind of moment because it brings clarity to me. Right. So when I speak about mindfulness, like I said, stillness is not necessarily not doing anything. For me, it's about engaging in something I'm passionate about. For those of you who've been listening to the podcast since I've been on, you hear me speak all the time about farming, gardening, and those kinds of things. That is like my Zen space, like getting the dirt in between my hands and putting a seed in the ground is like, oh my God, that's like, for me, that's my thing. For someone else, it may be music, playing music, listening to music, dancing. It could be walking. It could be seeing the elephant, Miss Kim. It can be anything that you're into. So I would advise anyone to get past the struggle of distraction, whether it's emotional, whether it's financial, because right now we're having all of those. What is it that's your happy space? What brings you joy? What is it that you do that can make you joyful? Swimming, sitting on the beach, going to the park, playing with the dogs. It doesn't matter what that thing is that brings you joy, just engaging in it. That is how you can get past the struggles of the noise in the head, like Miss Kim said. Sister Yodit, would you like to add to this conversation?
Thank you, Miss Paula. Yeah, and I've been listening attentively, and I think for myself, mindfulness is something that, and being still, I think I mentioned it last week when we were talking about resilience,
You
but
did.
the need to be, yes, and the need to be still, but more importantly, the need to empty the noise in my head. And I think that's where mindfulness, I guess you can interpret it in different ways, but having the time to be able to empty the noise and focus on yourself and your thoughts, because that clarity of mind comes when you're not thinking about a million things or doing a million things. So I think for me, it's something that has come, in the past couple of years. Prior to that, life was just crazy, hectic, and you didn't have time to pause and do anything. But what happened during COVID was very interesting, and I think that's when it really hit home. And the company that I worked for started organizing 30-minute mindfulness sessions online for anybody who wanted to join. And the focus there, I remember the practice was, your breath, just
Mm-hmm.
listening to your own breath and coming to being able to focus on just that. And I remember finding it very interesting. I have a friend who's been practicing mindfulness for a very long time. and I never quite took to it. I sort of understood what it meant, but
Right.
just gave the excuse of how hectic life is. But then yoga also helps you too. So I did a little bit of yoga with one of my daughters for about a year, and that also helped. But to be honest, it's in the past couple of years where I've really been able to empty on a daily, what's going on in my mind. And what helps me is writing. I write. I used to write a lot in the past. I've started that again. I journal a lot, just to get rid of the anger, the triggers, etc. So that's something that I do. And then, yeah, I think let me leave it there for now, Miss Paula. But I'm listening and appreciating the different things that you all do in order to still the mind. And I think that is the most difficult thing. You could look like the most peaceful person walking or driving, and yet your mind is not still. And I think if we
Right.
can get that right, then we're heading in the right direction. But I see that Miss Grace has joined us as well. It'd be nice to hear your voice, Miss Grace.
Oh, yes. Welcome, Miss Grace. Welcome, welcome, welcome home. I know you are really busy. You're a busy lady building an empire. Tell us, how do you deal with the struggles and the distractions in your life so that you can find the space to just be still, no matter what it is you're doing, where you can tune into yourself, Miss Grace?
Good morning. Happy Sunday to everybody. And so happy to be with my THT family. And welcome to the THT tribe out there as well. Um, Thank you, Paula and Diorit. I appreciate it. Um, what I'm hearing from everybody is kind of similar to, so the what to me, for me, the the stillness of body is not necessarily translating into the stillness of mind. So that is what I find a lot of challenge in. I can sit down and be still, but I cannot shut down my brain. My brain is always going 10 miles an hour and always thinking about something, you know? So, and I think that is where the challenge is for me also a lot of times, to make sure I am still in my mind, my brain.
How do
So,
you do that, Miss Grace? Do you ever have you found a way to do that
y-
successfully, or is
so
this just kind of hit and miss?
no, 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 no. I don't think it's a hit and miss for me. I think there are certain things that I do to, you know, eliminate that and pause that and kind of cool it down a bit. One of the things that I do is really just kind of immersing in passion. Sometimes something that I really like to do when I
Yeah,
am passionate about something and I'm really doing it. I don't really think about anything else at that point. I'm just focusing on that because I'm so like consumed with
yeah.
and excited about it, right? That's one way. And of course, like with that passion for me, it's like hanging out with my loved ones and friends and just kind of being in that moment with them for a minute, or just also like productivity, you know what I mean? Even work wise, when I'm focusing on something that I'm passionate about work wise, I
Mhm.
tend to spend more time on that sometimes, and I have to stop myself actually to get back to the things that I do need to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just simple things, just kind of like maybe TV, or I know for some folks it's meditation. Meditation does not work for me. Meditation, my mind goes other places that doesn't need to go. Like it visits million places at once. So I think everybody has to find that one thing for them.
I tend to agree with you. I don't meditation in the formal way of meditation doesn't necessarily work for me in that way. I've gotten better at it over the years. I tried earlier in my early years to meditate, and in 10 seconds flat, my mind would be all over the place, like you say, Miss Grace. So for me, really, to your point, really is about the passion. Like if you're doing something that you love to do, everything else falls away. It's like you're in the zone, man. It's totally different. And that's where some of the best ideas come from. but everybody does it a little differently. So, Lassie, what is your method? I mean, when you have challenges or, you're running, do you ever get tired and feel like, oh, I just need to get away from this for a minute? How do you escape the travails of life? Whether you're traveling, whether physically or mentally.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. I normally prefer to walk. I mean, sometimes I do watch cartoons a lot, and even though maybe when I
Really?
say this in the office, people do insult me, but but I do really watch cartoons a lot, and also maybe also take some walk. I used to work with my childhood friend. Anytime, I mean, I'm having difficulties, I mean, I'm going through some struggles. We used to take a stroll, then probably to a stream or a riverside, then probably we'd be talking about ourselves. Before then, I realized, then probably I don't really think about the issue anymore. Yeah, so that's what I normally go about it. Or purposely, when I'm at workplace, when I'm struggling with any kind of thought in my mind and I'm at workplace, I just make sure I just go out to field to work with people. Anytime, I mean, you're working with people, helping people, I mean, educating them and stuff. I mean, those issues really go off mind. Yeah.
Okay. And I can see you doing that because you're so involved in helping young people and helping them to chart, a better life for themselves. So I can imagine that the stress that comes with that. But Selassie, you said something really important, and I hear this a lot about with people. Some people say, "Oh, I want to be in the mountains." Like I'm a mountain person. I want to be in the bush. Lots of people, though, are drawn to water for whatever reason, whether it's in your shower, it's a river. Let me tell you what a shaman told me once. A shaman said something to me. I was having a series of dreams continuously, and I kept dreaming water, different forms of water. Whether I was in the ocean, I was by a river, I was bathing, I just kept drinking water. I just kept dreaming water. And the shaman said to me, just as a matter of fact, the shaman said, water is a holder, it's a keeper of memory. Anything water is around, it holds the memory. This is why the ancient people used to go to the water to take their worries to the water and leave it there. I found that so interesting, and that stuck with me over the years. So when I hear people speaking about how calming being around water is for them, I can imagine that the power of water is so much more than I think even science understands at this point. But I digress. I'm the nerd, so I'm going to digress.
But
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
want you to stay there.
Can I
I
say
want you to
something?
stay there for a minute. Okay, no, go ahead, and then I will continue.
Okay, I've also witnessed an instance whereby people have been arrested and maybe put in jail, something like that. After they have been released, I learned they normally go to the riverside or the seaside to take the sea bath. I don't know what that meant, but well, I've
Really?
heard it several times. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
There
we
is
have
there.
the
So
same tradition. Wait a minute, Sister Yodit. We have the same tradition in Garifuna tradition. So maybe that's something that's come down to us from the African side that I think my people don't know. Because I keep asking people, why do we do that? And no one seems to know why they're doing it. But just so you know, Selassie, in the Garifuna culture, we still do that now. Like when someone come from jail or have been sick or recovered from something, the first thing they're told to do is to go to the sea and take a salt bath. It's crazy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sister Yodit. This is interesting.
no, but it's not crazy. So there's something about the sea, right? And I think it must then mean that most cultures appreciate the sea for some reason or the other. I love being by the sea. And it's perhaps in those moments that I find the most calmest. Is that the correct English word? But where I am the most calm.
Yes.
My mother tells me that when she was expecting me, she had gone to the sea. My father had taken her to the sea. So I don't know if that's what it is. I'm also uh, a water sign. So I don't know if that's what it is. But one thing I know, and I don't know where it comes from because I do it. Whenever I go to the sea, I am sure to fill a bottle with seawater and bring it home. And when my friends go to the sea, I ask them to bring me some of the seawater. So I have bottles of seawater everywhere.
Wow.
There's a certain power that the sea has. And I know I was hoping you were going to give me the answer, Miss Paula, but you said that you're not quite sure yourself. But there is something about the sea. And, we bathe in the sea, we go in it, we want the water around us. There's something that we believe that the sea holds. And maybe, well, I'm definitely going to go and take a look. I've never read up on it, which is interesting, but
Aboriginal. Yeah, the
I've
Aboriginal,
always
all the
been,
Aboriginal communities believe the same thing, and it happens, and it doesn't have to be the sea. A lot of us love being by the ocean or the sea or salt water or the beach, but they also believe in rivers, huge bodies of water. And if you can't have huge bodies of water, they tell us what to do with a glass of water. It's amazing to me, but those are conversations for another day. I have some
yeah.
ideas about it because I've been seeking as well, Sister Yodit, to understand what is this thing with water. And scientists just discovered that water can exist not only in 3 or 4 states but 5 states. So there are things that they're discovering about the power of water. So, I'll leave that there. Like I said, that's discussions for another time, but it's amazing with what that stuff can do to us and for us. And we should be taking advantage of it. Whether you live in the desert or you live someplace where you have a running stream that dries up in the summertime, if you can get next to it, then explore the possibilities of what that can offer you in terms of mindfulness. Right?
Yeah.
Can I
Go
add
ahead. Yes, please.
I find it interesting also that our bodies, the human body, is made out of about 60% of water, or even more, maybe in some cases.
I think it's more, but yes, you have a point there. It's
Yeah.
great.
But yeah, so I think it could be, I mean, that could be part of it. I'm not a scientist, or don't have any knowledge on that, but I think it's a very interesting point to make, that our body is really more water than it's flesh and bone, I guess.
There
And
has to be something in it, Miss Grace. You bring up a valuable point. If most of us is water, there has to be something important. There's a connection there. There's some kind of energy that goes with that. Now, the scientist on the board right now and the team right now is Dr. Gladys. Maybe she can give us a little more about that, the science and benefits of, mindfulness, and what is it and how does the body deal with it? Do you
Well,
have any insight?
Yeah, well, let me just say this first. When we were talking about how we're attracted to water, I wanted to mention that, I don't live close to, an ocean or anything like that. I'm actually probably like 4 hours away. But, because of the fact that I am attracted to it. So, a lot of times when I travel with my daughter, we always make sure we go to the ocean, to the beach or whatever. And what I've done in order to fulfill that, since I don't live close to one, I actually have a fountain. And I know that my neighbors are probably like, what is it with her and this fountain? No, I'm serious, because it's nothing big, but it just means so much to me. No, no, no.
Right. The running water, to hear
Right.
the water running.
Exactly. And let me just say, and I have it surrounded with these beautiful plants. And
Oh,
this is just,
yes.
it's just my little thing. And when people come to visit, I've heard people say, I like the sound of that fountain. And it's nothing big. I'm telling you, I'm going to share it with you in our group. And people, they're like, wow, I want one of these in my backyard. And I'm telling you, it's not a big fountain, but it just means so much to me. And I'm always filling it with water. And people are probably wondering, what is it with her in this fountain?
I get it.
Brings serenity,
Yeah,
to me. It brings it to me.
absolutely.
And I just wanted to mention that. So that's how I substitute for not being, around water where I live. So that's how I do it.
That's a perfect solution for someone who may not be near water, because the
Exactly.
fountains are so small now. You can have one in the house. You can set it up in your bedroom.
Can.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's an amazing option.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I've actually built this, like I have like rocks underneath it. So I made it, like I said, with the foliage around it. And it's just, like I said, it's important to me. And I did want to get back to what Grace was saying about water. So we're like about 70% water. And I do want to say that, water plays a pivotal role in moving about our ions, like, sodium and, potassium and stuff like that. So, and then it also can generate energy in the sense of when you have these different electrical fields, like with sodium and stuff like that, they
Right.
help with the movement of that. And within that movement, there is a lot of energy. And a lot of times that energy is being used to move other molecules. So I just want to bring that to your attention. So how of the fix, I would say, is very important internally for our body when we're moving around these different molecules and stuff like that. So it has a huge role in that. Just like, for example, let me give you an example. If you have a patient, a person who had serious burns, they have compromised their cells. And what happens in a case like that, there's no equilibrium. And that's why when it comes to people who have serious burns, is a very difficult, that's a very difficult patient. That's why they have to go somewhere where people actually specialize in that. Because think about it, there's no equilibrium within the body. So that means that they're prone to infection. They don't have any balance when it comes to their ions. So I'm just saying that's how important it is internally.
That is really fascinating that you say that, Dr. Gladys, and thank you for educating us. Because to Sister Yodit's point, what she asked was, why is water, what role does salt water play? And as soon as you started explaining that, it just fell into my spirit. Hey, ding, ding, salt water is a conductor of electricity. It might have an electromagnetic impact on the body. That's why we're so drawn to it. There's actually biological and scientific, I'm sure, connections in that way. As soon as you said that, I thought salt water, that would work. That would increase the energy flow to the human body. And maybe that's the reason we're so drawn to it, Sister Yodit. So maybe anyway, I'm going to research that too, because I want to go down that rabbit hole and figure it out. Well, that you're absolutely correct. And thank you so much for that. Ms. Kim, you look like you have something you'd like to add to this.
Actually, I was just fascinated with Dr. Gladys and fountain. And for the longest time, I had a fountain as well. And actually,
Wow.
mine was like a natural man-made fountain that meant the world. And yes, there's something to the sound of water.
Yes.
And then for the longest time, I had a little, like a house aquarium, a little thing that I had my goldfish in. And it was hectic because those things you have to filter, you have to clean it up. So at some point, I transitioned into having my goldfish in a bowl next to. And it was so beautiful. You just sit and watch them, and you can get lost just watching fish, just swimming and enjoying life. So I think sometimes
Right.
subconsciously we have things that just calm us. As I see, like one of my daughters likes stargazing. She can go to the rooftop and look at the stars for hours, and she's lost in that world. That could be what calms her. Maybe sometimes you're not even conscious that something just
Right.
triggers. Mm.
Yeah. You're right, because my son, the youngest one, is a stargazer too. Like, he loves it. He can obsess about that for hours. So I get it. I totally get it. Well, this is such an interesting conversation so far. We have not said anything to our audience. Can we pull up some of the audience discussions if there are any? And we can move into speaking about the common misconceptions about mindfulness. And we've touched on some of these, right?
Yeah,
So
I
go
did.
ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something, and you were talking about the attraction to, to the ocean or the salt water. I did want to mention that I just looked this up, and it was saying, like, of course, the rhythmic sounds of the waves triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. And I just want to mention the parasympathetic nervous system is under the autonomic nervous system. So you have parasympathetic and sympathetic, and the parasympathetic nervous system is the calming system. So, for example, when you're sitting down, and let me just say, for lack of a better word, when you're chilling, you're watching TV or reading a book, that's when your heart rate is low. That's when, defecation can occur, urination can occur, digestion occurs. So that's the effect that the ocean actually has on individuals, humans, as far as, it kicks in that parasympathetic nervous system. I just wanted to mention that.
Wonderful. I knew there was a scientific correlation. I just didn't know how or where. Thank you so much, Dr. Gladys, for putting us up on it. And I think that's great. Go ahead.
Since we are on the scientific road, may I just ask one question here? I'm going to take you guys from the ocean to the mountains. what do you think? And I think this is for Dr. Gladys. I'm just super curious. Sorry to ask. Um, the thinness of the air and the relaxation that happens when you are higher in the mountain after your walk or whatever. Is there anything to it as far as we go up in altitude?
In altitude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can say this, that the air is thinner, right? And usually people who go up into the mountain, they really have to be trained because the oxygen level is different. Let me just mention that. So it's not, a common thing for a lot of people. People prepare for those type of climbs. I just want to bring that to your attention. So it's not like you go up there and you're going to have this experience. It depends on your genetics. Maybe some people can do that. But I just want to mention to you that people who are mountain climbers, they usually train for that type of climb. Okay. Mention that.
But there is something to it, perhaps, that when you get up there, the air is thinner. I don't know. Maybe you can touch God. I don't know. People say that all the time. I go to the mountains, I touch God.
Right. Because you think about it, what you're really looking at is nature, regardless of whether you're climbing a mountain or what have you. But it's just that when you're going into high altitudes, usually those people train for that type of thing. It's not just something that you normally do. And think about it, you have to be physically fit. That's another thing. So everybody doesn't just go around climbing mountains, but the idea of being in nature, period, those are people who, they almost do it for sport. You know what I'm saying? That's something they enjoy doing. The average person does not climb mountains. I'm just saying.
But I mean, if you want to go camping, like if you want to be up in the mountains to go for, I can see that, to be immersed in nature.
Level. Right. And that's taking it to another level, because you have people who are just like, you go to a park. That's in nature. If you have, foliage around you, understand what I'm saying? You can still. So, but that's what I'm saying. That's almost like for sport when you're doing mountain climbing like that. That's not the typical person that's climbing mountains, because, like I said, you have to be physically fit. But a lot of people train for that, so it's a whole different thing. But still, in nature.
I do love the idea of being in nature, though, because again, the shamans all say the same thing. And I'm told this so often: when you're feeling kind of disjointed or chaotic, or you feel out of sorts, the first thing they always tell me to do is you need to go outside, take off your shoe, and sit on the grass, or stand on the grass, stand on the sand, hug a tree. And I used to ask why, and they say because you're re-anchoring your energy to the earth's energy, and it's going to change how you feel. And it works for me. I'm bringing that up because it actually works for me, right? Like, I'm a real bush baby. I'm out in the bush, I'm hugging the trees, I'm talking to the leaves, I'm just doing what I do. And I know it's weird, but it just gives me joy. And I feel like the trees answer me. But anyway, conversations for another day.
No, that's good, because it's still, for those who actually do that type of mountain climbing, it's exhilarating. Let me just say, you know what I'm saying? It's very exhilarating. It depends on, everybody's different on their level. Like I said, that's just not a normal thing that everybody does, but everybody can go into nature. You know what I'm saying? Because it could be on ground level. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because our farm is located maybe 4 to 5 miles away from the foot of the mountains. That's where, from the mountains. So our farm is at the foot of the mountains. And I've got to tell you, there is nothing like, when we finally get it together, I'd like to invite the entire team to come to the farm, because you get up in the morning and the mist is rising and the air that's coming off the mountains. I mean, I got goosebumps. It's an experience. It's a thing, really. It is a thing. You speak about being grounded and feeling the butterflies, the birds, the monkeys. We've got howler monkeys on our farm. So it's a thing. It's really, truly an experience. So I can relate to that, being out in nature and reconnecting to everything that's alive. It does something for you. And I think that's what Miss Kim was saying about, walking the dogs, being outside, watching the butterflies and the birds. It does. That's an integral part of this. So it's one way to escape from the madness and to find some centralized peace. And actually, if you do this enough, you can actually begin to do this even from your living room, sitting on the couch. Your mind can actually take you to these places where you can get the same effect. So I just wanted to go there. So like we have on the screen now, what is mindfulness really? Well, let's just talk about what it's not. Yes, go ahead, please.
I'm still going back to Dr. Gladys. Dr. Gladys, that doctorate, we're all going to milk it dry right now.
Yes, the science of
So
mindfulness and happiness. Go ahead.
you see, just back emphasizing on what Grace was asking, I'm a sucker for heights. I'll do anything to be up there. And I've done crazy things. Like, I remember one time I was in some place in Beijing, and then I noticed I'm actually in a cab. The cab guy cannot speak English, but I see a mountain
Mountain.
where it's very mountainous. Yes. And I told him, stop, stop here. And that was a full day of climbing. I wouldn't go to Cape Town. Since I already you know it, we have the Table Mountain, which is quite exciting. So for me, it doesn't matter. Like when I was young, wow, I can say that. I used to love bungee jumping. I'm not sure if right now I can do it, but it's for me, it's I love the thrill of that. So I wonder if there's something that draws us scientifically to any place. I love it, drives me like I'll do anything to drive through a hilly place, and I will stop and watch the topography when I'm up there. I don't know if that just elevates me. I feel like if I go for big presentations, I'll do anything not to stand, not to sit. I'll stand, which I feel like it gives me some power. So when it comes to mindfulness, is there a thing scientifically that calms me, that makes us humans sometimes so drawn to heights? Why do we kill ourselves climbing mountains? Because people die. I think every year, thousands of people die trying to climb the mountains. And for me, it's one of my bucket list. I want to climb some of the, I know it's a job. You have to prep like for 6 months, and you might prep for 6 months and the doctors still don't allow you to. But for me, all these small hills, I'm a sucker for climbing them. Could there be a relationship scientifically?
I definitely, just like you have daredevils, you have people who are just different in what they strive to do. Let's be for real. There's
Adrenaline
certain people.
junkies.
Yeah, you have people who are fearful of heights, so more than likely they're not going to climb a mountain. But you understand what I'm saying. So I think it's just a matter of what you're drawn to, because if you remember, there was a guy who was actually, I can't remember his name, but he was a daredevil, and he would like try to use his motorcycle to jump over like 10 cars or something like that. It was just something in him that he got some type of adrenaline rush out of doing that. That was just him. We're all different individuals, and there's certain things that you would do that I probably would not do. You understand what I'm saying? Just like there's things I would do that you're not going
Yeah.
to do. So it's an
Right.
individual thing, and it may have a genetic factor. You understand what I'm saying there? So,
Well,
we're different. We have different things that
can
go ahead.
can I add to that? Because Miss Kim was asking if it's a scientific, and I believe that it is, but let me give you the spiritual, if I may. The spiritual component to this is because I asked that question. I asked that question to the elders. I love being with them. And I asked them, I said, what is this about height? Why some of us just need to get up to a top of a mountain. We want to go up in space. The higher we go, the better. And what they said to me blew my mind. They said, it's your DNA memory of your connection to the cosmos. That I was done. When I heard that, I was like, huh? It is because the elders, the Aboriginal people and the elders say that we didn't come from here, we came from someplace else. And our genetic makeup has the memory embedded in it, ancient memory. And that's one of the reasons why we're drawn to going higher and higher, and why we're being drawn to going outside the planet and into the cosmos, because we are descendant from the cosmos, especially those of us who are melanated. These are ancient prophecies and stories. This isn't anything that I'm making up. The drawings in the old caves speaks to this. It speaks to man, and it speaks to our relationship to interdimensional and external beings and where we come from. I know it sounds crazy. This is another conversation for another day. There's some of us aren't ready for this kind of conversation, but this is really a conversation that's going mainstream. People are drawn to certain things, and we're drawn to certain things for a reason, because it's in our DNA memory. So I'm trying to answer the question from my vantage point, Miss Kim. And I'm sure there's a scientific connection to that, but from a spiritual connection, the DNA does remember, and it's drawn to certain things for a reason. I hope that helps.
It does. And maybe that's a podcast for another day, because it's a very cultural, it's very traditional. You know those stories that sound like they're not real, but we are known, my tribe, we were 9 girls that came from the mountain. We came from the sky, actually. So
That's
maybe
what
I'm
I'm
still
saying.
trying to get to the sky.
That's exactly what I'm saying. The 7 sisters from the Pleiades, that's in the cosmos. And they say that they had a hand in our evolutionary process, that there was DNA that was messed with. Anyway, let me not go down this road. But all of that is a part of this. And there are people that are meditating now, that are now being able to connect with these beings in these higher levels of consciousness, that is helping us to remember our origins. So I'm saying that to say that that's probably, and perhaps, I believe, it's my personal belief. I'm not a scientist. But these are the kinds of things that I'm interested in, and the things that I research on because I'm interested in them. So that may end. I hope that answers some of your question.
Can I add something to Ms. Kim's earlier comment about
Yes, ma'am.
meditation? When one thing I learned is, Ms. Kim, when you were talking about when you present, you prefer to stand and move around, and that is actually they teach that in when you learn public speaking, that when you move around as you are speaking, and there are ways you can move around. They teach you that as well. It helps you release some of that anxiety. So the anxiety exits out of your body as you move and make gestures, and you are active while you are speaking. So that lowers your level of anxiety. I just wanted to add that to that. I think that's a little bit different from the height.
But the concept is related, because think of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're standing up and you're elevated, your energy is flowing in a particular manner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it could be, you can relate that to being even higher than just standing, being up on a mountain. The energy is activated in a particular way that has direct impact on the body. So I can see the correlation. I mean, we're not the scientists here. We're just people having a conversation about this subject, but experientially, from what I've experienced, like when I went to Peru, the mountains, the Andes mountains in Peru are like, if you ever can go. You say you like to climb, Miss Kim, Peruvian mountains. If you can ever get an opportunity to go to Teotihuacan, I mean, you just have to go. I can't even put words to it. If you can, please do. You speak about mindfulness and energy. The energy in that place is so ancient, and so, for me, anyway, again, conversations for another day. I know we're running out of time, so we do know what some of the misconceptions are in terms of mindfulness, and we know what it is not. It's not emptying the mind or stopping thoughts. That's not really what that is. I mean, it can be a part of that, but that's not what it actually means. And it's not only spiritual or religious people who can, engage in mindfulness. And it doesn't require formal meditation. And you don't have to escape from reality or your emotions in order to engage in mindfulness. We talked about this. We talked about how some of us, how each of us address this from different points of view. And so we know that it isn't any of those things. For those who are thinking that way, no, it's not like that. Find something that you're happy about. Find something that you love to do. Because when you're engaged in something you love to do, all the problems, the trials, the tribulations, and the confusions fall off. Just try it. Right. So the true meaning really of mindfulness, it means paying deliberate, intentional attention, not not engaging in judgmental analysis of what it is you're observing or what you're feeling. Just observe it. Just be, without any judgment, without any expectations. Just be and follow it and see where it takes you. It includes awareness of thoughts, feelings, sensations, your surroundings. We talked about this. How each of us address this in different ways. And for Dr. Gladys, it's just her fountain, and the plants and the environment in her yard. For me, it's the farm, it's the yard as well. It's gardening. It's the passion of being in nature. For Miss Kim, it is walking her dogs, climbing a mountain, you know, whatever that takes. It's different for all of us, but pursuing it is what matters. Find your happy place inside of you where you can begin to examine your dreams, your ideas, your perceptions for your life. It starts with that. And that's a good place to begin with this. And there's no one size fits all when it comes to achieving mindfulness, right? So why we struggle to stay present, everything around us, the TV, social media, you know, constant notifications from our social media. I just turned my phone off. I put that phone down. I don't care. I get sick of it and I just park it. I'm unavailable until I'm available. I'm busy with my life. I'll get back to whomever and we'll deal with it then. The emotional barriers, feeling like it has to be a particular way, or you have to feel a particular way, or, you're afraid to confront yourself. You should still try just being able to tune into whatever makes you, what gives you joy, the things that you like to do. And the emotional toll, living everywhere but here drains energy and peace. And it does. It does. As a woman, we're being pulled by everything and everyone, our children, our partners, our jobs, our money, our family. For those of us who are the firstborn or the elders, we have to be responsible for everyone. It's important, it's critical that we find the space to just be, where we're not living up to anyone else's expectation. We can take the time to have a conversation with ourselves, to observe ourselves, to just observe life just around us without judgment. That's what this is about. And this is what we're trying to convey here. Anyone else would like to add anything to this particular, what we see on the screen? We
If
talked
I
about
may
time.
ask a
Yeah,
question, Ms. Paula,
I'm sorry.
um,
Go ahead,
can you
Sister
hear
Yodit.
me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So for somebody, for an individual, I'd like to ask a question because I
Yes,
want
ma'am.
you to help, and anybody else who understands and has been practicing it for a long time. So for someone who's got an extremely busy life, right? For somebody who is constantly going, um, let's say it's a woman who's got a high position in a company and a lot of responsibilities, both at the workplace and at home. And it's just a constant go, go, go. So, what would your advice be? Or I could even paint a picture of a young person who's just about to graduate from university, is very worried about getting the next job, is constantly online looking for work opportunities, etc. What advice would you give those individuals? What is it that they need to do um, to start being mindful? When we say you have to learn to live in the present moment and not worry about past regrets or future or fears, what advice are we giving? I want us to break it down into something that's practical. What is it that this person should start doing the minute this podcast ends?
That is an excellent question, Sister Yodit. For me, the first thing that I did was to commit. I made a commitment to myself to spend some time each day to tune into myself, to tune into my environment, and without judgment, and just be still, and just to enjoy just being alive without being pulled, harassed. So at the job, and I started this when I was still working at the executive level in my past life, I made it clear to my direct reports and to the people that I was working with that I would take 30 minutes on my break, right? So I did it during my lunch break. I didn't take extra time. I did it during my lunch break. I took 30 minutes to just be. So I would send out an email. It was an email that would be an automatic email letting them know I was on lunch break and I was unavailable until such a time. I made that a part of my professional environment. I demanded space for that. And when I explained why it was important, not only was it accepted in the workplace, it was respected. But I made a commitment to myself to take 30 days, 30 minutes out of my work day to just be quiet, right? To focus on the challenges at work, focus on what I needed to do, to come up with strategies. And because that was part of my job description, I think perhaps it was not only accepted, but it was respected. And in my personal life, I committed and I let my family know I had me time. I am designating me time. So when I told everyone I was on me time, they knew what that meant. It meant don't bother her, wait till she's done. Right. So this is the kind of commitment we have to begin with, making a commitment to ourselves and then extending that commitment in the different aspects of our lives. I'm speaking about what I've done for me that has worked and it still continues to work today. Take the time out, even during your day, no matter what it is you're doing. If you need to have a conversation with yourself, do that. And not be preoccupied or concerned about what other people think. Do it. It's important for your sanity, for your mental health, for your physical health, for your spiritual health, for your emotional health. It's important. It's critical. So that's the first thing that we would start with, that I would suggest, is for you to commit to very specific time frames. It doesn't have to be every day. It's whatever works for you, right? That you're going to designate and cut out a time for yourself. That's the first order of business. The second thing will be to commit to examining your thinking and how you make decisions, because that's a part of this, right? For me, it started out as just, I just need a breather. I need a moment. And then it evolved into, for me, chunking out those times for very specific things. When I was still in corporate America, when I would take my 30 minutes of mindfulness was not about what's going on at home. It was my 30 minutes of my professional life. Where am I? What are my goals and my objectives this week? Am I meeting those goals? Am I comfortable with my progress so far? Do I like how I'm performing? If not, what am I going to do about it? These were the kinds of things. This evolved over time. This may be a little difficult for the novice that's just beginning, but it will evolve. This practice evolves over time, and it allows you access to different aspects of building your life, whether it's professionally, personally, as an entrepreneur, as a philanthropist, whatever it is. Now, the first order of business is to make a commitment to yourself, to chunk out this time for your own well-being, for your sense of well-being, whether it's on your professional side, on your personal life. All of that is important. If you are creative, what are you doing to feed your creativity, your creative side? What does that look like? What is your practice, your personal practice for creating a wholesome environment for your creativity to prosper, to proliferate? What does that look like? If it's emotional, if you know you're an emotional person and you are working on kind of taking control of your emotional life and your emotional space and how you show up in life, in your life with it. What does that look like? That means taking the time to tune into yourself. You've got to know who you are, where you're at, what do you want in order for that to manifest itself in your life. So mindfulness is more than just, mindfulness is a tool for tuning into yourself and into your life, right? So make the commitment to yourself and make that commitment externally so that other people are aware of it, so they can respect it, right? And that takes you to places inside of yourself and inside your life that you probably haven't even imagined. I hope this is answering the question. That's the major piece right there.
Absolutely, Miss Paula. It's answering the question, and it's also, you're also showing us why it's important to take that time out. So if you're a young person starting out, that is the best place to start. You're not going to give anyone time to hit you with anything that you haven't expected or you haven't thought about 5, 10 years into your career, because every single day you are giving time to yourself to understand and appreciate what you're going through, etc. So nothing comes as a surprise. And I think this is my thing, is what is it that we need to show our young people? How can we, what are the tools that we can give them to better manage the work world, the working world, whether you're an entrepreneur or you are working in the corporate environment? What is it that you need to do? And we started last week talking about resilience. Now we're talking about mindfulness, which I think is the it's such a critical thing that young people have to do for themselves. So get into the habit of doing it now. Don't wait until you're all flustered and something like COVID comes and forces you to be still. Because that's exactly what happened to us, right? We didn't have a choice. We
Yes.
had to just be still. So
Yes.
I like it because you're also saying it's not just for you to sit there with your mind empty. Although for me, emptying my mind is very important because it gets rid of the noise. Once you get rid of the noise, you're able to focus on those things that are important. But for young people, is to say, create that time for yourself. And interestingly enough, you also mentioned the fact that people will respect you for it. So whether you're the team leader or whether you are reporting into somebody else, it is okay for you to let people know that this is something that I have to do for myself, whether you're doing it 30 minutes before your day starts or during lunch hour. People begin to respect you for the things that you do. And hopefully, people will start to do the same. Because
Absolutely.
when you have people, and I like when you mentioned, it'll help you make decisions. Sometimes people make decisions in the rush of things, in the insanity of the environment. You're making decisions that are going to impact people negatively. Perhaps if you had given yourself this time to think about what it is that you're doing, you would not make rash decisions or decisions that are not um,
In the
based
best
on careful
interest.
thought and
Mhm.
consideration. Exactly. So I think it is so important for us to um, what's the correct term, to emphasize the importance of taking time out for you, but also taking time out for the work that you are doing. And hopefully there are young people who are listening in and or people who will share. But I think mindfulness, I agree with you, it's such an important tool, and one that we should start utilizing from a very young age. Um, and I'm hoping that it is spreading. I know that I've heard of cases where CEOs start their meetings by providing a moment for this, but meeting the breathing exercise that comes with it. So I really appreciate your answer, Ms. Paula. And yes, you have answered me in full and more. So thank you.
A- And thank you, Sister Yodit. But there's something I'd like to add to that. See, mindfulness is a self check in tool, right? What I started every day, you're supposed to have an objective for your day. Mindfulness helps to create this in you. The self check in, right? Because for my self check in is, what do I want to do? How do I want to do it? Within what time frame do I want to get it done? And what is it going to take for me to do it? Right? When I check in the middle of the day, it's okay, how far have I come along with what it is? And I'm speaking from a professional standpoint, from a professional growth standpoint, right? For young people specifically, you must be clear about what your goals and your objectives are and the methodologies that you're going to undertake in order to accomplish those. Checking in means that you're now checking in like Miss Grace have us doing, checking the boxes, right? Did I do A, B, and C? And how did I perform? Am I pleased with my performance? How can I make it better? This self check in is so critical in everything that we do, because even in the professional environment, businesses is made up of people who have to produce. If you are in contact with yourself and you're clear about what the goals of the company is, what your role is and what the objectives are and the methodologies that you use to accomplish that, the company can't do anything but respect that, because it is in the best interest of the company for you to be the best employee you can be. So it does matter. It matters on so many different levels. For those of us who get a moment, usually we're in our phones playing a game. How about taking that time to check in to see how you're performing, how your measurement performance is against what your goals and objectives are? And I mean, it sounds highfalutin, but it's really simple. It's the same thing in your relationship, right? This mindfulness is a critical tool across the entire value chain of your life. How are you in your relationships? Have you been listening lately? Not just to yourself, but to your partner. Are you tuned into them? Are you on the same page? What does that look like? Are you tuning into your children, right? Are you really thinking about your children beyond just your expectations for them? So, yeah, so this is really, really critical. And this is the way that we apply it. That self check in mode is important. And we need to strengthen that because that's a tool for growth. That's a personal and professional growth tool. That's critical.
Yeah, I would like to
Go
add
ahead.
to that. Yeah, because I definitely love what you're saying about commitment, because I think that's the first step. Because I deal with college students, and what I'm finding is that they're making these decisions and they're not being mindful about them. They may. I think it sounds good. Okay, I'm going to school. However, they are committed somewhere else. For example, I think when you make that commitment, you have to be realistic, and that again, that's where the mindfulness comes in, because a lot of times what they're doing is they're working and then they're signing up for classes at the same time that they're supposed to be on the job. Okay. So then comes in the factor of accountability. You have to be accountable. I can't be concerned about what you have going on outside. I'm paid to do a specific job, and that is to teach. So I see a lot of times when I'm saying to them, they'll say, oh, I had to go to work. I say, okay, but didn't you think about this when you made this decision? I'm always saying this. So I'm bringing them into mindfulness, because I'm like, okay, you made this decision, you committed to it. I mean, but was it really realistic? And now you have to be accountable, because you're not going to get the grade that you think you should have because you haven't been present. So I see exactly what you're saying, and they really need to sit back and think about it. And I'm having this conversation constantly. And again, that's where critical thinking comes in. That's where problem solving, because I'm not saying that you can't stay employed, because there may be, you have to make money, you have to pay your bills or whatever that is. However, I can't consider that as a factor when it comes to your grade. If you're not there, you're not doing the work, I have to give you what you earned.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of things that come into play. Like you said, they will commit. But however, they're not being realistic. They're not sitting down and looking at their time. How much time do I have available? Let me tell you something. I have students who are going into nursing, and they have to take something called the TEAS in order to qualify to get into nursing. And you have to have a pretty decent grade, a score on that exam to get into nursing school. And let me just say, the formula that I have for them to do well on that exam has to do with time management. Otherwise, you will not be successful. And that's where accountability comes in. And I always say, do you have 3 months? And that's even giving them extra time. So I'm just saying, all of that plays a role in it. And I hear a lot of excuses. I had to take care of my grandparents. It's not to say that you cannot multitask, because you can. I'm good at it. However, it's not something that you just acquire. You have to sit down. If you don't know how to do that, you have to sit down and figure it out. And you have to write down how much time. I just had the person who actually did my braids the last week. She was telling me about how she was trying to multitask, but she just really didn't have the skill set. And I was sharing with her how she could accomplish it, because you can still accomplish it, but you also have to take into consideration that you have to sleep.
Yes.
There's no way your body is you're going to sleep. You can't avoid that. What's behind when you're driving a car, you're going to fall. It doesn't, if you are sleep deprived, you're going to make up for it somewhere. It's just how the body works. You see what I'm saying? So these are things or factors that have to go in. If you have a family, if you have children, all of those things play a role in you making these decisions. When you make that commitment, you have to be realistic, and accountable if it doesn't work out.
Thank you. And that's a perfect segue, because I see mindfulness as an accountability tool, a personal accountability tool. You can't juggle all of this unless you're present, and you're present in a very intentional presence, right? Mindfulness helps you to check into yourself with your goals. It's just what it is, right? I'm going to sign up for nursing school. I have 3 young children and I don't have a children's father and I have a job. That means I have to juggle all 3 of those successfully. I need to be honest. I need to check in with myself, conduct an inventory, and be honest with myself about what that is.
If I can add,
Uh-oh. Something happened. Oh, no. We
hello?
on? Are we back?
Go ahead, Miss Grace. Go ahead.
Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
I just wanted to add something to what Ms. Yodit said earlier. I think I'm so glad she brought it up because I do find last week's topic about resilience to be um, very much tied to the. So I find resilience to be very draining, right? It's very draining trying to be resilient about everything and being always having to do and you think you're doing a good thing and that's why you're doing it when you are resilient, right? Whether whether it's overcoming something or adding more tasks to your plate because of your resilience in quotation and people adding that to your plate, right? I think again what Ms. Paula and Dr. Gladys are saying is I find the remedy to that resilience is the mindfulness, right? Being
Right.
mindful, excuse me, guys, being mindful and taking inventory, as Ms. Paula said, and really being aware and present, as also Dr. Gladys was saying. So I just wanted to tie those two together again. I know Yordi raised it earlier, but I just wanted to kind of bring it back up. I think it's important to tie these two together because resilient, as positive as it may be and sound, sometimes can be very draining and can be very negative at times for people, for the individual. So I think the remedy to that is mindfulness and taking stack and really being accountable to your part and then making other people also accountable to their task and to their responsibilities. I think sometimes we got to um, delegate and also make sure what is on our plate does not necessarily always has to be on our plate and things like that, and being mindful of others and ourselves especially. um yeah, I think I
That
just
is
want to tie those two
that is
together.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tying those together, Sister Grace, because you're absolutely correct. These tools that we're providing are mental emotional tools. These are tools that allow you to be able to build the kind of trajectory, to build a roadmap to your happiness, to your sense of satisfaction. This is the reason why we wrote the book. This podcast, this mindfulness podcast, is a chapter in the book. And Miss Yodit, can you please tell our audience about our book, about this upcoming book, and how they can place some pre-orders, perhaps? This is a great point for this.
Thank you, Miss Paula. Yes, I guess we should have mentioned it perhaps at the beginning, but this podcast is part of a series of podcasts that we're hosting. I think this is our third one. And the subjects and the themes are coming from a book that we have written as the Happiness Tribe. And we cover different aspects of happiness in this book. And so for the next few weeks, we'll be discussing the remaining chapters. But we feel we've called it a blueprint to happiness because it just gives you some of the tools that you need, that we believe you need to be able to live a happy and fulfilled life. I'm not able to speak to the pre orders at this time, but maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to advise how and where folks can pre order the book for the Happiness Tribe. But yes, it's something that we're all very excited about. It's our first book, and we're hoping it'll be the first of many. For those of you who've been following the Happiness Tribe, you will know that we've been pulling together different subjects that affect human beings, how we live our lives, and how we are all striving for happiness, but somehow not always getting there. So this book is just meant to help guide those who are really struggling, and those who are not struggling perhaps give you additional tools on what to do on your own, but also I believe within your communities and within the workplace as well. So I hope that's okay with you. Kim, may I ask you to also jump in? Maybe you have a couple more things to add about the book. Thank you.
Well, a blueprint to happiness. Thank you, Sister Yoda. The blueprint to happiness really is a culmination of what the happiness tribe is about. Happiness for us is not a destination, it's a journey. And as a group, as a family, we are on this journey together. What we do is we share our collective experiences and our individual experiences with ourselves and with the audience in the hope that our audience, our family, our tribe members can really benefit from each other's experiences. This is what this is about. And so this is the reason for these conversations. They're ongoing conversations. Ms. Grace, can you tell our audience what next week's topic is going to be? Are you still
Yes,
there, Ms.
yes,
Grace?
yes, yes. I'm here. I'm here. Sorry.
It's okay.
I will. Before I get to that, can I just add something to Monsieur Yodit's comment?
Yes,
Although
ma'am.
although we don't have the links ready for the purchase and so on, if you want to be one of the first to receive exclusively, the first to be in line to receive this book, you can directly DM any of us. And we will hold a copy for you, whether it's a virtual copy or a physical copy. We're going to give you the details in the DMs on how that's going to work. But if you are ready and interested in learning more about this book or having this book or being the first to have this book, you can definitely DM us directly, and any of us here, and we will get back to you with further directions and information, and you'll be one of the first. So, as to next one, um, it's going to be giving back, the beauty of contribution. So that is our next week's topic. Did I get that
Okay.
right?
Yes. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And I'd like Sister Yoda to explain why giving back is an important tool on a roadmap to happiness. Sister Yodit, can you tell us about that? Sister Yodit, that was Sister Yodit's chapter. So she can tell us a little bit about why giving back and philanthropy is so important. And then I'd like Dr. Gladys to follow up with what she does. Go ahead.
Thank you, Miss Paula. I think I'll beg your indulgence here, but I don't want to start discussing this chapter now. I think what I will say is that kindness, giving back, contributing is absolutely essential to anyone. I think it's something that for some of us, it comes easily. For others, it takes and requires a little bit more thought and prodding. But whichever way you do it, it is absolutely critical. It is, if there is a glue that holds us together as individuals within any community, giving back or kindness is a very important ingredient in that glue. So for some of us, we live lives where it's a part of parcel in what we do every single day. So yes, it is my chapter. I enjoyed writing it. It took me down memory lane. I was raised in a very kind home, very kind and gracious parents. So it was a wonderful chapter to write. And my daughter, my firstborn, helped me with editing the chapter, which made it even more special. So I'm looking forward to that discussion next week. And I'm hoping that we'll have everybody who's joined us today and more joining us next week. Thank you, Ms. Paula. I hope that's enough without giving too much away. Thank you.
It is. It is. Thank you, Sister Yodit. We so appreciate it. And I'd like to thank the audience again that's listening in near or far, listening in today or even later when this podcast is available. We really appreciate you tuning in. Please join the conversation, ask questions. Let's explore what this looks like and how do we draft a roadmap to happiness, right? Oh, mindfulness is a radical act in a busy world. That's what we were speaking about, Miss Kim. That's precisely what we were speaking about. Mindfulness is a mental emotional tool, right? um, Anything and everything that you do, you need to make sure that you're on point with what it is you want to do, what it is you're trying to do, and make sure that your actions are in alignment with the outcomes that you are pursuing. The only way to do that and to do that successfully is mindfulness. It's a tool. Stay in the present moment. Check in with yourself, check in with your dreams, check in with your ideas, check in with what your expectations are for love. What does that look like? How far are you going to go? Is it working? Is it not? What do you need to change? Mindfulness is the tool that enables us to do this. And this is the reason for that. So here we have on the screen, resist the hustle culture, slow down is an act of power. I agree with that. Presence is strength. Being mindful is not laziness. True. Radical self-care. This is the most important one. Mindfulness is part of a radical self-care tradition, plan. It's so important, especially for women. Young women, you are going to become wives and mothers if you aren't already there. Entrepreneurs, business owners, professionals. It is critical to engage in mindfulness in order to balance all of the different demands on your life. You know, we older women seem to make it look easy, because I know my mother made it look easy. My mother did so many things. She was the matriarch of the family. She held down everyone. She helped to raise children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and even great great grandchildren. And she made it look so easy. And the older women never really talked about their challenges as women. You know, these are things that I'm now getting from them because I'm asking questions. And so we want you to ask the questions, engage with us. We can learn from you and you can learn from us. So we so appreciate that. Miss Kim, next slide. How to return to the present when pulled away. Simple. Mindfulness is the key. Check in with yourself. Make it a part of your wellness program to check in with yourself regularly, maybe a couple of times a day, multiple times during the day, but make some space, create some intentional space for yourself so you can check in on yourself and your dreams and your ideas, your plans and your work. It's important. You know, speak to yourself kindly, be gentle with yourself. Don't do it in judgment. You know, use anchors such as breath work. Focus on your breath. Maybe touch. For me, it's hugging the trees, touching the leaves. Maybe sound. Maybe it's music. I have a new discovery, y'all. It's a secret. I'm really into this African meditation music. It's blowing me. Like this week, I'm doing Zulu meditation music. It's awesome. Maybe I'll drop some links below. It's fantastic. I don't really do mantras, but you know, if it works, hey, go there. Whatever's working, do that. You know, no guilt. Don't feel guilty for checking in on yourself and tuning everybody out for 30 minutes or an hour during the day or whenever you're doing it. You know, I'm telling you, sometimes your phone is ringing when you're in the middle of meditating and being still. The world won't collapse. Even if they're dying, you can't help them. You got to check in with them when you're done. You'll be in a better position to help the situation once you've taken the time out for yourself. Only healed people can heal people. So I hope that helps. The next slide.
Oh, can
Miss
you say that
Sally.
again, please? Can you say that again? Who can heal who?
Only healed people can heal people.
Okay, one more time for those who did not hear it, please.
We'll put it in the chat. Only healed people, those that are already healed and are
Oh,
healing,
Grace should
can
say
help
it.
others.
Grace
Can
say
help
it.
others to heal. You know, so yeah. So that's where it is, man. Everything in this life is designed to take you away from yourself. Demand time from yourself for yourself. You can only help when you're already helped. You can't pull
Yeah.
anyone out the hole until you're out of the hole.
Mhm.
So that's why we do this podcast. That's why we do the work that we do. And I'd like to thank you
Can
all
I
so much
can
for
I
tuning in. Yes,
Miss
ma'am.
Paula, I'm so sorry, but I want to add this because it's a very interesting topic to me, and I think Miss Kim will. I think we've had a conversation about this. You cannot heal until you've healed yourself. I agree and understand. Um, you cannot pull anyone out of the hole unless you are out of the hole. That
Correct.
one, I disagree somewhat. And I'll tell you why. Because there are people who will continue to give of themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
They literally have a lot of, and I'm talking about, and there, some of you are right here on this call, but you will be giving of yourself, whether it's emotionally, physically, people are standing on your shoulders, on your head, and you keep going and going and going, and they keep taking and taking and taking. And somehow, whether it is the mindfulness practice that you do, whether it's a meditating, whether it's going to church and praying, somehow they manage. So I think people do pull others out whilst they're still in the hole. In fact, it
Well,
happens all the time. So they're not fully healed. And that's where I agree with you. They're not healed, but they will pull people out of the hole and will put others before themselves. And maybe that's what Christianity teaches us. I don't know. But I know a lot of people who do that. So I just wanted to, and that's another podcast. I agree. It's a very interesting conversation because it goes back to your question of, when do you stop? Do you stop when you've had the heart attack and you can no longer continue? When do you catch yourself before it's too late? And I think that for me is something that I think about all the time, because I know a lot of people who continue to do that. They're not giving themselves the time to do, because they can become greater and bigger, and happier in life, but because they're constantly giving of themselves, they can't. So yeah,
well,
just
allow
wanted to
me.
throw that in as we end this conversation. Thank you for allowing me, Miss Paula.
It's not a problem. It's not a problem, Sister Yodit. Allow me to address that real briefly before we close out. So when we say you can't pull anyone out of the hole until you're out of the hole, doesn't necessarily mean that you're standing at the outer edges of the hole. We are at different levels of escaping the hole or removing ourselves from being in the hole. If I've made 3 steps and I'm 3 steps above you, if I'm 3 steps below you, I can't pull you up. But if I'm 3 steps above you, I can pull you up to where I'm at. And I can now stand on your shoulder to get to the next level. And when I'm at the next level, I can now pull you up and you can jump on my shoulder like a ladder. See, so it isn't, and maybe we use the wrong terminology. Maybe it's not, maybe the only way to pull ourselves out of the hole is to help each other get out of the hole collectively. Right. But to your point, we're not necessarily out of the hole. And I think this is an ongoing journey, if I may. But as we learn and as we're learning and we're growing inside of this is the reason to have a tribe, to have a community, because we help each other so that we all collectively are moving beyond our constraints, our challenges. So that's an excellent, excellent point. Thank you so much for bringing it up. And I hope that this last input helps to clarify that saying and that situation.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in to
Absolutely.
explain what that means
Thank you,
to
Miss
me?
Paula.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Judith, I'm assuming you mean this phrase we say, you can't give what you don't have, right?
Can she
So
hear
to
you?
me, what can
Yeah,
you
no,
hear
I can
me? You
hear.
can,
Sorry, I did respond. I said, but we do that, Miss Kim.
yeah, but so to me, that practically means I might look like I don't have, but I do have. So literally means I may not give you practically a commodity you need. I will not be able to share my 2 pints of milk to give you one, but I can give you love, I can give you peace, I can give you space, I can listen to you. So I strongly believe we all have something to give. So there's always something. If I'm very broken, I'm very empty, then I'm running on fumes, right?
Yes.
I'm running on fumes. And at that point, I'm likely to be at a mental hospital. But then if I'm still functioning, I still have something to give.
Yes.
Does it make sense to you? Yeah. I
Absolutely.
It
feel
does. It does, Miss Kim. But my question then is, and this is where mindfulness comes in, and the lesson that we're trying to impart today becomes critical, is you need to take a step back, because there are people who continue, they're broken, they're empty, they have nothing, but they continue to give. And I see that. So this intervention is necessary. You have to stop. You have to stop, right?
I
And
get it.
that's all I was trying to say. Huh?
I know. I get it. And I understand you. And I know I know you're just being polite, but I know you're about to point fingers. But here's the thing. Sometimes you might find that act of giving is what that person needed to do to feel complete. Some of us giving, that act of kindness completes us.
Or
We could
fills
be
us up.
so empty. It
Can, can,
fulfills us. It's selfish, to be honest. A lot of philanthropists have claimed giving to be an act of selfishness because I receive more when I give in most cases than the person receiving. There's so much gratification. There's gratitude. I'm only able to have a bright day because I gave. And maybe
can I say
it's
something?
subconscious in me. It's not something that I acknowledge and I look at that I'm giving my last meal and what are my kids going to eat. It's not something that I even think about. It's fast running to, I need to rescue this person. I need to do this and that. Sorry, Miss Paula.
I'm not even, Miss Kim, I'm jumping into your throat here. And that's an expression from this part of the world. I don't know why, but people say, forgive me for jumping into your throat. I'm not even talking about physical things, hey? I'm not.
I know.
And if there's a specific friend of mine, it's not about physical things. It's about emotional support that drains you, but you continue. And maybe some of our priests and some of our nuns, because that's what they do, they appreciate God, they pray to God, and they're constantly giving, 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 and we never quite stop to think about how they take care of themselves. We assume that because they're in constant prayer, that somehow that fills them up, their spirituality takes care of everything else. I'm not convinced. But what I'm saying, Miss Kim, I'm not talking about, you have a sandwich and you give half to somebody else. I'm not necessarily talking about physical things. I'm talking about, because sometimes giving of yourself, right? It could be physical, it could be emotional. You continue to do that, even though you're broken. And so there are people that I worry about because I see it. And one day, perhaps, something will give in, and that person will, and that's what I worry about. So it's not the material things. No.
And it
Not at
does
May
all.
I
give.
may I jump
Yes,
in here,
please.
ladies? Please, may I jump
Yeah.
in here? 'Cause I'm hearing
Yes,
this
yes,
is
Miss Paula, please.
we were about to get off. This is taking us into some more minutes. But this is critical because this is a critical component of all of this, right? There are two things here. Because the principle, and I'm speaking for the audience, I'm speaking from a spiritual perspective. From a spiritual perspective, when you are given the intangible things, to Sister Yodit's point, you don't get drained if you're checking in with yourself and you're refilling your drum. That kind of giving, when you're giving the intangible things, you're giving the love, the understanding, the mental time, the emotional space, space, just holding space. Women are great for holding space. If you're giving and you're getting exhausted, you need to A, check your intentions for why you're giving, and B, you need to engage in a basket. You need to secure a basket of tools such as mindfulness that refills your vessel and your container perpetually so that it enables you to keep giving without never being drained or empty at all. See,
Can I
Hold on a minute. Hold on just a second.
Sorry, I
If
thought you
you're
finished. Go ahead.
no. I'm going to give you a second, but I want to drive this point home. If you're giving and you're exhausted from the giving, it means that you're not replenishing. Replenishing is a spiritual practice. It's the same practice we're speaking about. If you're putting back into the drum, then you can continue to give into perpetuity. But if you're giving and you're not refilling your container, you will be found wanting and you will end up in an institution. So balance here, spiritual principles has to be at play inside of this entire matrix. It's foundational to everything. I can't give what I'm not getting. I have to give it to myself first and refill my drum in order for me to be able to continue to share that with the world. So I'll stop there. But this is an excellent conversation, and I love the dynamic between Miss Kim and Sister Yodit. Go ahead, Miss Grace.
Sorry, Miss Grace, I have to just respond to Miss Paula. I think you've hit the nail on the head. And thank you to Teleja Bailey, who said, giving from your overflow. So, and I'm answered. So it is the constant prayer and that spirituality, that connection with a higher being that allows you to keep giving without feeling overwhelmed. I just find it stressful. But yes, thank you, Miss Paula, for that.
Not a problem. Thank you for pointing it out. Miss Grace, go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't mean to jump in there. I thought you had a little pause, so I thought you were done. Sorry about that. But
It's okay.
I guess it was just kind of in addition to that, you kind of said what you similar stuff as I was going to say. My point was, as long as it is coming also from your end, see the giving part, we give because we want to give, or we give because we don't know how to say no. You see what I'm saying? So I think that is a very big factor as well as to how we drain ourselves. We drain ourselves by saying yes, 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 yes to everything, or do we drain ourselves by because we want? Because when you do it from internally and you want to give, a lot of times you give it because you want to, and it's fueling to you, as to Miss Kim's point earlier, in one way or another you get more out of it. But if somebody's constantly coming to you from left, right, and center, asking you for things and you don't know how to say no, in that case, I believe you are draining yourself because it's not in your choice. Well, it is in your choice, but you don't know how to say no, if that makes
It
sense.
isn't but it isn't that, and that's a very
Mhm.
fine distinction. There's
Yeah,
a difference between giving to
it's
yourself first in order to be able to give to everyone else, and given because you're a people pleaser. Being a people pleaser is a spiritual dysfunction. It's usually someone who feels inadequate and is craving the is craving the love or the satisfaction from, in other words, you need to give in order to feel validated from outside in. But that goes against spiritual principle. The spiritual principle is you give to yourself. That's why mindfulness is a tool for checking in with yourself to make sure that your intentions are pure and on spiritual alignment when you're activating it. In
yeah.
other words, if I'm given just because I don't know how to say no, because I'm a people pleaser and I want people to like me, to approve of me, that's a dysfunction. That's a clear dysfunction.
So
I don't
just
say
like
it's bad.
Mhm.
I'm saying it's a dysfunction. And the way that you do that, the way that you reverse that, is to find the validity and the gravity in you being good enough from spiritual principles so that you don't need the external validation. You're validated from within just by being. And that's what helps you to be able to keep giving, is to give to yourself first. Right? Is to fill your tank. You have to keep filling your tank. You can't withdraw from a bank account that you're not depositing in. You're going to be overdrawn.
Yeah, one thing I wasn't quite finished. Just to it was I only had 2 words left.
I
But
apologize.
no, that's okay. That's what we do here. It's okay. But I was just going to say, and you said that again as well. I think we got to keep this in mind. Is like the external, or internal. When we're giving, it's like asking ourselves, okay, is this an external ask or is this an internal ask? You know, is this something I'm doing it for me, or is it something I'm doing it for somebody else? So it's practice, and we learn and we grow constantly. And I think, but that if I would advise anything, is to kind of like look into that, which is something I'm learning myself.
Yeah, that people pleasing thing is a real problem, especially with women. Like, we have a serious issue with that because we're seeking validation. And when you begin to evolve spiritually into a spiritual adult, you no longer need external validation in that way. You know that who you are and who God created is enough. And that it's okay, and that you can say no, and that you can give when you find it necessary to give. Because if you're aligned with spiritual principles, you never get empty. That's why I don't have a lot of material things, but I'm able to share of myself because I keep refilling myself. I keep replenishing my own tank, right? So yeah, I think that's a clear distinction, and that's important. But boy, this is going to be a long video. We really need to.
I'm just going to say
Yeah,
one thing before we close. Is
yeah.
that okay? Is that okay? Can I just say
Yes,
this
ma'am.
last thing? I
Yes,
don't necessarily think it's just, and I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying it's just self-validation. I do believe
yes.
also, because as if we're going to look at it from female perspective, it's a nurturing part as well, I think, or other factors from, other different aspects. So validation is maybe one of them. I think there are also like other factors, such as like, some of us are just um, nurturing in nature or something like that. This comes from within as a personality thing. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think
Does, Miss
uh,
Grace, it makes perfect
yeah,
sense. But the point is to nurture ourselves first and continuously. That's the point we're trying to draw home is you can be all of those things, but you have to be those things to yourself first and foremost in order to keep your spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical tank full, healthy, and vibrant. Now you can be a conduit now for sharing this with others in a way that's healthy and wholesome, right?
that's a good finish right there.
Well,
Beautiful
Can
I'm
I
going to
finish.
just
be quiet. Yes.
can I just add a little bit? And
Yes.
sorry, the topic is so exciting, and I know we are on top of the hour, but I truly and fully agree on it's you can't give what you don't have, really and truly. You're running on fumes. And just for argument's sake, I think we all know it's been documented. Mother Teresa died a miserable person. The
Did
biggest
she really?
philanthropist. Oh yes, she actually left a lot of letters written about her misery. She gave and gave everything. Yeah, she was emotionally broken. She was ruined. She had no inner peace. Somebody who walked the streets of Calcutta, giving all the homeless children.
She
That
probably needed a
compassion.
husband and
May
some
I?
children. I'm sorry.
No,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
can I? And I know the conversation is continuing, but I can't help myself. So, Mother Teresa is somebody who worked in the most horrible of circumstances and
Condition.
situations.
Hmm.
Yeah, she saw horror. I don't know how anybody who did that day in and day out, who does that, has peace. How can you have peace, Miss Kim, when you're seeing misery like that? I don't know if it's because she was continuously giving and not filling, because she was, from what I understand, and I don't know a lot about her except that she was extremely kind. She was kind and she gave and she wanted to do her best to make people less miserable, feeding, but she was witnessing horror.
But she
How
also
do
left
you live?
herself out. She left
Yeah,
herself out.
she didn't
She gave to
Possibly,
everyone except herself.
she
but
lacked
even if
self-care.
she gave,
She
even
didn't
if she
feed.
did, well,
She was
but
running on
don't
fumes.
people who give their lives to God somehow, self-care
No,
comes in the form of maybe prayer. But what I'm saying, Ms. Kim,
no.
is for people who work in those types of environments where you're seeing misery, human beings miserable, and for no other reason but just greed, right? I don't know how anybody can live in peace. How do you live in peace? How do you have peace?
By
That's all she thought
being,
about day in and day out. Mm-mm.
but
Anyway,
she
this
had
one
an,
we're going to be here until midnight. So
I
maybe.
know, clearly she had an imbalance somewhere because you cannot be doing God's work and be in alignment with God and be so unhappy and miserable. Then you need to look at your intentions and your reasons for doing what you're doing. Something is off. because the principle doesn't work like that. Spiritual principles, when you're engaging spiritual principles, it is naturally refurbishing. It's naturally restorative. That's just how it works. But anyway, oh God, why did we started this one? Okay. So
You, you know what? I would honestly suggest we take this. It's a conversation I'd like us to have, but maybe offline, maybe one of our weekday sessions, because it's deep. And for me, after I got to learn a lot about Mother Teresa, I read her books, I read her letters, I became very self-aware, and I've been very guarded to ensure that I don't get to that, because
it's a case
it's
study.
very, very easy.
Sure.
You can get
It's a case
obsessed.
study. Yeah, it
Yeah, you
is.
can
Because
get
I used to
obsessed
be
with it.
like that about
Yeah.
family. Like I would give everything. The
Mm.
children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, I would give them my last. And I realized at some point, hey, why are you doing this? And then you're angry about it because they're always coming to you. Stop them.
Mhm.
You could do something different. Instead of giving it to them, give them the roadmap for them to get it. Teach them how to
Mhm.
fish. Then you don't have to get
Absolutely.
angry and upset and feel
Thank you.
drained about them fishing and
Yeah.
harvesting you. So, yeah,
Yes,
I'm actually
absolutely.
living this so I can speak to it.
Yeah. And especially for firstborns, this fear of judgment, these expectations from us, the little children, they just a whole village community demand from you. And at some point you
Will
run out
this
of.
Miss Kim, this is
Mhm.
actually a whole different podcast, and this is something we need to explore because it is
Yeah,
important, because it's
it
critical in
is.
families,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
for the firstborn and then the middle child
Mhm.
who feels like they're ignored
Mhm.
and they get hand me downs and they never get their own stuff. And so the middle child complex is just as deep in this conversation, but we can go on for hours. I think can we please close it out
Yes.
and perhaps continue the conversation online. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
this is the longest podcast ever. And it's beautiful. It's brilliant. Do you still want to give 1 second each person for your closing remarks?
Yes, ma'am. Why don't we do that?
Mhm.
I'll save mine for last since I'm doing most of the talking. I'll be quiet. Let everyone give their final closing remarks, beginning with Sister Yodit.
Thank you, Miss Paula. Just one thing for me, and this especially for our young people, is be kind to yourself. And I think that's what mindfulness is about. Be kind to yourself. Thank you. And thank you for joining us this now evening in Habaroni, wherever you are. And have a blessed rest of the day, evening. Take care.
Thank you, Sister Yodit. Dr. Gladys.
I just want to say that everybody should practice mindfulness. You really enjoy being in that space. It's just temporary. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Gladys. Miss Kim.
Yeah, this has been great. My mouth is still full, so much to say. If I can just be allowed 1 second to just add on something that was burning inside me. When Sister Yodit, I like it that she's always talking about the youngsters, the youth, the young moms. And I constantly reflect on how did I cultivate mindfulness? How did I manage to raise, I can call them world class children, amazing kids that are doing life pretty well. And most of my life parenting was a single mom. That wasn't easy, but I had to put in the anchors. And some of my anchors were whether there was a driver to take you to school or not, I was there to take you to school. I made sure I was there for your school events, activities, which means the world to children. And then sometimes breakfast was just weird. Like sometimes breakfast is being had in the car, somebody woke up late, this and that. You put systems in place, but they don't always work. But dinner was mandatory. We all sit at the
Okay.
table at 7, and there are no gadgets. No gadgets. We also implemented a lot of no gadgets weekends where we'll be swimming, we'll be doing activities, we'll walk the dogs, we'll take care. And for me, animals has been a big part of raising my kids. I wouldn't know how to raise them again without animals because that teaches them responsibility. And I see it to date. Wherever they are, they'll call and check on their animals. Those are their babies. So that part of parenting, to date, we don't have a TV in my lounge. And I think it's been more than 4 or 5 years without a TV, which it sounds weird this day and age, but we've kept it that way. And even before, the TV was in our garage, which we turned
Right.
into like a space to chill. And I don't allow TVs in the bedrooms. That's a rule. That's a no-go area because they have to detox from gadgets. Our lounge has a bookshelf, which is so easy when you're sitting and chilling there. You'll be tempted to have a book. Every bedroom has posters, bookshelves, and things that I print for them on mindfulness that I see they have practiced that and it has become part of them. I see them deeper in mindfulness than I am. I see them
Right.
practicing yoga, meditation, reading very deep books, and I feel as they get lost, they keep coming back home because the foundation was well laid. And that for me would be my advice to many other parents there. It's not easy. They don't come with a manual, but if you can teach them to practice mindfulness when they're still young, say a prayer. Whether you're religious or not, there's a thing you believe in. Whatever you do, there has to be something that kids have to learn to practice. I'm also very particular on I constantly have my, what do you call it? And Miss Paula, you said you don't do it. I am always having a slogan, something that I say. So I teach them a mantra, sort of. I
Yes.
constantly have a mantra. Yeah. So I teach my kids, you need to have something. What do you call on when you can't take it anymore? And
Right.
for me, that centers me. I have some habits that I do the way of the cross, which is very Catholic. I'm no longer Catholic, but I grew up Catholic. But to date, it has a meaning to me. It's like calling heavens. It's like just saying, "Can you just be here for me? I need you right
Right.
now." You know,
Right.
you need to have some habits, some anchors you put in you that get you. That could be your way of getting mindful, getting centered, being holistic, and just taking a moment, just taking a break. So it would be nice. Maybe, hopefully, someday we'll have another session when we can talk about the corporate mindfulness. How do you incorporate that? My little things that I do to make sure that even within the team, we are putting in that mindfulness. It's you're not even telling them that's what you're doing, but you're making sure that that's well taken care of. Thank
Right.
you. It's been a great show.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Kim. Sister Grace, your closing remarks.
Yes. Yeah, I just want to kind of repeat some of the stuff from previously real quick, and that is the part about resilience. The remedy to resilience is part of it is anyway. I think mindfulness. I think that's very important takeaway. The other one is give from internal resources, not or decisions, not external decisions. That so when you give, it's coming from inside of you and from you. And then the last thing I want to leave our tribe with is our LinkedIn tribe, YouTube tribe. We have so many tribes these days. So I want to leave them with is to remind them we are taking orders through DMs. So DM us and share the good news as well to be the first to receive this book.
And the name of the book is Miss Grace. Are you gone? The name of the
Sorry,
book is
sorry,
The
sorry, sorry. I was
Blueprint
on
to
mute. I was on
Happiness.
mute.
Oh, go ahead.
A blueprint to happiness. Sorry, a blueprint to happiness.
That's the name of the new book from the Happiness Tribe that will be coming soon. And these podcasts that we're having, I believe the next 4 podcasts is really an outgrowth of the rest of the chapters of the book. The first 4 podcasts that we've had, the last 4 podcasts up to this one, are all themes of the book. So if you'd like to learn more about mindfulness and you'd like to be able to work on instituting all of these tools or immersing these tools into your daily practice, please consider getting the book. There's some very good gems in the book for wherever you're at and how you're pursuing your happiness and what that looks like. We really appreciate you taking the time out to have these conversations with us. We will continue this conversation next week, where we will be speaking about giving, philanthropy. How does giving impact your happiness, your personal sense of satisfaction, what that looks like, and how to go about doing it in an effective manner. Thank you again, no matter where you are. Good evening, good night, good morning, perhaps, to all of you. And we pray that you will take these tools and use them to really unearth your sense of happiness and your journey towards happiness. Have a most blessed day and a wonderful business week. See you all next week, Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye.